So you were 10 years living at one of the best-known addresses in the world. Do you remember what was going through your head the first day after you left?
I think it was kind of just adjusting to being, in this case, in a building site, because the house we moved into wasn't ready. And therefore we suddenly moved from number 10 Downing Street into a house with one bathroom, no kitchen, and only my bedroom and my little boy's bedroom fixed up, which was a bit of a shock to the system, and lots of building works going on around us.
Coming down to earth with a bang.
Definitely a bang, lots of bangs, in fact, because we're knocking down walls. In fact, for ages, I thought, I just hope that brick dust is good for the skin, because it must be a good exfoliator, if nothing else.
Certainly hasn't done yours any harm. Now, what has life been like since 10 Downing Street?
Well, funnily enough, I thought it might be quieter, but it's been very busy. That's partly, I think, because I committed myself to writing this book, and my chambers were thinking that I was going to come back and be able to do a lot more practice. And in fact, of course, because I was writing the book and because I've now been going around promoting the book, I'm still doing my barrister's practice, but I'm by no means back to 100% a barrister.
It must have been difficult for you being all things to all men, because there you were being a supportive wife, the wife of the most important man in the country, and that would have brought with it a specific role, being a mum and having to care for your children, and also having your legal career as well. I mean, it must have been a constant juggling act.
Well, I think that, speak to any working mother and you'll find juggling is exactly what we all do. For me, of course, I suppose I was unlucky in one sense because it was all very much in the public eye. On the other hand, I was lucky because compared to my own mum, who was a working mother who'd been abandoned by her husband and forced to work first in a fish and chip shop, and then she went on and ended up managing a travel bureau. But she didn't have anything like the resources that I had, the financial resources that I had. So I at least not only had help from my mum, but also was able to employ a nanny who's been with us for 10 years and does a fantastic job. And I know there are many, many people out there who have to manage without those resources and have a much more difficult time than I did.
You have been quoted as saying that you were brought up by two very strong women, your mother and your grandmother. How did that sustain you for the life that was to come?
Well, I think that it's made me what I am. It's particularly made me always interested not just in human rights, but particularly in women's rights and standing up for a woman's right to have their voices heard, which across the world they still are not having their voices heard.
Because you've always been very forthright, but you strike me as having a little bit of the rebel in you as well. Would I be right in saying that?
I think that may well be true, and that probably comes from being what my husband always calls a bolshy scouser.
He was right?
Well, I take that as a badge of honour. Yeah.
During all the years that you were wife of the most important man in the country, well, you still are his wife, but during those years, you crossed the paths of some pretty high-powered people. Who would be the one person you will always remember who impressed you the most?
It's so difficult to choose because I was so privileged. Can you imagine, from a girl from working-class Liverpool to meet Nelson Mandela, President Clinton, President Bush, President Chirac, two popes, not just one pope, but two popes. And for a Catholic girl like me, that's a huge privilege indeed. And on top of that, I had Stevie Wonder sing "Ma Cherie" more for me at the White House.
I've gone green with envy. Green with envy. If you were to live your life again, would you live it any other way, do you think? Would you have wanted those 10 years? Oh,
I would definitely do it again. It was an absolute huge privilege, and to see Britain come through some amazing changes in that time, not least, of course, since we're here in Northern Ireland, what happened in Northern Ireland. I'm the girl whose grandma always told me that she never married the love of her life because he was a Protestant and she was a Catholic. and whose husband, Tony's grandmother, on her deathbed, said to him, "Never marry a Catholic." So the fact that we see now in Ulster the reconciliation between the two communities matters on a personal as well as on a political level.
Yeah. Do the children feel that they've got their parents back now? Because it must have been difficult giving them time, for both of you.
Well, I think that the irony is, in many ways, they see less of their father now. Now, partly for the older ones, who I keep saying I've got 3 teenagers. In fact, all of them are now 20 plus. And therefore, of course, are doing much more of their own thing. But, when we were in Downing Street, we lived over the shop. And that meant, particularly since the Prime Minister can never go away for too many days, that meant that really Tony was around a lot more. Now, of course, particularly with his Middle East job, he goes away to the Middle East and also on other duties with relation to that, a week, 10 days a month. And that's a big difference.
So you're having to be mum, dad, everything?
Well, I don't think I'm a substitute for my husband. One thing about Tony is he's always been the most fantastic dad. I won't claim that he's great at domestic duties. In fact, ever since he proposed to me when it was me who was on my knees because I was cleaning the bathroom at the time, it's not been one of his strong points. But looking after the children, helping out with the children was something that he did, particularly with our elder 3, when he was just a backbench MP in opposition and therefore was often there to step in when I might get caught out at court or things like that. So he's always been a hands-on dad and still is.
So your book, Speaking for Myself, is it a no-holds-barred account of Cherie Blair's life?
Well, in some ways, I'm a pretty old-fashioned girl in that I wrote the book in the way I would talk to my friends. I'm not a big one for swearing. I'm certainly not a Russell Brand, for example. And though I tell the stories about my pregnancies and everything else, I don't think I tell them in a terribly explicit way. And I hope I tell them in quite a funny way.
Do you have an opinion on Russell Brand and Jonathan Ross?
Not really. I don't think there's anything I can usefully add to what everyone else has said already.
So tonight you're going to be speaking at the Whitler Hall as a festival event. Will that be a no-holds-barred talk?
Well, I'm hoping that people who come along will be able to ask me some questions. I'm being interviewed first, of course, but I'm more than happy to answer any questions that people ask of me.
Cherie Blair, thanks very much.